Hey everyone, Larry Walsh here for Channelnomics, and this is In the Margins, or at least a different kind of In the Margins. Usually you'll see me standing up somewhere talking about channel trends from some place where I'm meeting with people or attending an event. But this time we're doing something a little bit different. This is an excerpt from the monthly Channelnomics community call where my colleague and I, TC Doyle, are talking about the current economic climate and the trends that are impacting the channel. Let's take a look.
What's happening in the market today? Well, we've got the big Splunk Cisco deal. Larry's already put together an analyst note on that that's available to CIQ subscribers. The Dow's down 200 plus points. We all know that the stock market is not the economy. But Larry, what are some of the things that you're seeing that you think are relevant and important to point out to folks on the call today?
Sure. So, folks, this is those of you who know me. This is something that I just do as a matter of course, to just keep tabs on what's going on from the macro global economy down to the channel. And I want to start with the general outlook. We keep hearing the steady drumbeat that a recession is coming, and it hasn't arrived. I've been hearing that since 2019. You can't count what happened during the pandemic. That was an episodic event because of the unnatural circumstances. But we have entered into a state of sluggish growth. The numbers as of today in terms of GDP, just general GDP outlook, they're not that bad. In the US, we are fairly insulated from what's happening around the world. The US economy is fairly self-sufficient except for a few sectors. So even though you look at some of the numbers, 2023, they're expecting it to be about 2.2%, 24, 1.5, and 25, 3%. These are actually pretty good numbers for an economy the size of the US. The Eurozone, though, is taking more of a hit, and they're taking a hit for the obvious reasons. There's a lot of disruption in energy supplies. The inflation has taken a bite on their economies, and of course, the war in Ukraine is having a ripple effect across the entire continent. And the United Kingdom, though, is because they're now separate, and it's still a substantial economy. They are going through extraordinarily low growth because of the blowback to Brexit. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and but they're saying by 2025 they're going to return to a healthy state of growth. China, and I think everybody, if you're reading the headlines, there is a lot of consternation about what's happening in China and the growing trade wars. I was reading just yesterday that China did not ship an ounce of rare earth elements in the entire month of August. And China is the largest supplier of rare earths in the world. That's critical for things like smartphones and car batteries. So there's a lot of things that are going on in China, but the Chinese economy is near a stall. You look at numbers like above 4% for China. That looks good compared to the rest of the world. The truth is that the Chinese have a history of overinflating their GDP numbers by 3 to 5%. So chances are China is actually in a recession. So all of this is adding up is that the world economy is not in great shape, but it is not in what we would call healthy shape. There are a number of pressure points that we're following, and we're in the process of updating, updating our Channel the Future report. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to do so, but we'll be updating it over the next couple of months. Things that are changing. So we are continuing to watch trends like deglobalization, repolarization, and repatriation. What does all that mean? Deglobalization is that we're rolling back what has happened over the last 30 years, pulling more manufacturing, more supply chains closer to our shores. This is a part of trying to stem the competitive nature of what's happening in the Far East, but it's also because there's a realignment of global activities. The global centers are moving around, and it's because of what's happened, the trade situation with China, as well as the aggression of Russia. We are returning to what is looking more like a multipolar world, similar to what we lived through in the Cold War. This is directly related to the war in Ukraine. And the war in Ukraine is heightening geopolitical threats, which is causing a realignment of supply chains, which is also contributing to global and regional inflation. The ships are not moving in the same direction as they were just 5 years ago. And in fact, they talk about the increased security threats, which is causing ships to take longer routes. So there's a number of things that are influencing that, but also the war in Ukraine is having a ripple effect around the world, particularly in Europe and Asia, where it's contributing heavily to food supply disruptions, energy disruptions, and inflation. Inflation is going to remain a headline story. And even though it looks like inflation in the US has been somewhat tamed, it is still going to be high, and that's increasing the cost of money. And we are hearing that from our vendors, that the cost of borrowing is going to remain high, and therefore it's going to dampen investments by customers as well as partners. We're also seeing their budgets being cut, and I'll talk about that in a second. Another thing that's been coming up in conversations is AI. And of course, you can't escape this. Artificial intelligence is a burgeoning trend. But interesting enough, what we're being told by vendors as well as people that sell, the automation systems that are selling into the channel, is that AI is causing a dampening effect on spending. Is that a lot of customers are just holding back, wait and see what's going to come next before they invest in anything new, because they're anticipating more systems and more features to come through it through AI. So not spending money now, saving it for later. And of course, we're still dealing with things like, there's a saturation of supply still from the pandemic. There's still an ongoing trend of cloud cost and subscription cost blowback with cloud computing and services. And this is all contributing to general uncertainty in the economy, which is causing a lot of vendors and partners to second guess their spending and their expectations. And you see a lot of this coming with budgets and layoffs. In fact, it seems like every week we see another report of new layoffs out of the tech industry. So there's a lot of things putting pressure on the channel now. One of the things that I would encourage everyone to do is take a look at a few of the resources that we've published over the last year. Our recession survival guide, it provides a lot of prescriptive guidance on what to do with the channel to insulate your companies from downward economic pressure. We are going to be updating this guide, but it was published last year. We still think it's relevant. And if you saw the news last month from Dell, Dell shifted all of their storage sales into the channel because they wanted to cut costs, and they cut their costs, their internal costs, and they shifted that burden over to the channel. That is a play directly out of our survival guide. And we also, with GTDC, the Global Technology Distribution Council, published earlier this year a guide on how to use distribution as an insulator against recessionary pressures. So I encourage you, there's a lot of good information in these guides that will help you understand what to do when you're dealing with these economic issues.
Larry, I want to ask you a question. We started the year, I think, on a wise note. I would give us props for the two themes that you thought would be prevalent throughout the year: conservation, optimization. Your suggestion to a lot of our clients that we've been working and engaging with those in the marketplace was conserve your resources now to better figure out how you want to apply them when the economy starts to take off. Optimize your processes, your technologies, your go-to-market strategies, etc. If you were to look, and we'll get to this, I know in our future reports, we're going to come up to coming soon, but if you're starting to think in terms of themes for 2024, it's abundantly clear through the numbers that you share. Do you think we're going to get a soft landing? A lot of things could derail that, but it seems optimistic at this point, or realistic at this point, I should say, that we're going to get a soft landing. So as organizations start to shift and pivot, what are some of the themes that you think they should be thinking of without holding your feet to the fire? Because I know we've got some things coming up in our forecast report for 2024. But, putting you on the spot now, hey, it's September. Let's look ahead. What do you think of some of those themes?
I think that the trend is going to continue through 24. The ratio I've been using, these are not real numbers. I just say 40, 20, 20. 40% cut in budgets, 20% cut in headcount, 20% growth. This is ratios, numbers like this, and it's like I said, they're not the real numbers. They're just a mnemonic device for me. I think that trend is going to continue. That vendors are going to continue to pull back on their channel spending, on their go-to-market investments. I was just on a call last week where we were talking about marketing budgets continuing to take some big hits. Just before getting on this call, we got a call from a client looking for guidance on what to do because they're still doing their annual partner event, but they're cutting the level of investment, which is going to impact the ability of partners to participate. There's a lot of pressure on channel and vendor budgets, and a lot of it has to do with not, I wouldn't say a soft landing as much as I anticipate that we're not going to, it's not going to be a soft landing, and we're not going to go into recession. Instead, we're going to go into a period of low growth. And because of that low growth, things are going to feel uneven and unsteady, which is going to make it less acceptable to take risks. Ideally, I think the better strategy is now is the time to make investments. Now is the time to leverage the channel. Now is a time to take risks, because those that will take risks will be more than likely be the ones that have gained the most benefit. Thanks everyone for checking out In the Margins. If you like what we're doing here, please hit like, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and also check out our other podcasts, Changing Channels, as well as The Network Effect, and all the great content we have at Channelnomics.com, especially the Recession Survival Guide, as well as the Distribution Guide that we did with the Global Technology Distribution Council. Until next time, I'm Larry Walsh.